Lesson 1. I go to London. It is a beautiful summer day and I am traveling on a train. There are two ladies sitting opposite me. I don't know them, but from their conversation, I know they are foreigners. I don't understand much of what they are saying, but I know they speak English. I also want to speak English, but I am a beginner. I don't know many words. However, this is an opportunity for me to speak English. I decide to try to speak to the ladies. I say some sentences in my basic English and they understand what I say. I don't know many words and I speak slowly, but the ladies are kind and patient. I am able to have a simple conversation with them. I tell them that I want to learn English. They are happy when they hear that, and they tell me that they are from England. They are traveling home from a conference. We speak for about 10 minutes. Then it's time for me to get off the train. While I am thanking them for speaking with me, they give me their address and phone number. They tell me I can visit them in England if I want to, and then we say goodbye. This is how my journey in learning English begins. After this meeting, I decide to work on my English skills more. I translate texts and I watch films in English. I work on my English for 2 hours almost every day. In 6 months, I am able to speak quite well. It is great, but I want to know more. I decide to go to London to study English there. In London, I choose a school which I expect is good. I really look forward to my first lesson. The lesson is on Monday. On my first day at school, I meet my teacher and the other students in the class. My teacher is a young lady. She is very nice. She asks everybody to introduce themselves and say where they are from. Then the lesson starts. Our teacher asks us how we studied English before and what we suppose is the best method to learn English. I tell my teacher that I like translating songs and other texts, but I don't know what the best method to learn English is. Our teacher says that she will teach us a very effective method which is based on using the language. Our teacher tells us that we will not have to study, and we will not use textbooks. We will immerse ourselves in the language. It is great for me since I don't like studying and I don't like textbooks. Then we speak about what we should focus on when we learn a new language. Our teacher tells us we need languages for communication. Languages help us say ideas and understand ideas. So when you learn a new language, the best way to learn is to use it for exchanging ideas. This is what we will do in our course. Most of the time we will speak. You spoke a lot when you learnt your native language as a child, and you should speak a lot when you learn English as an adult. Unfortunately, many students spend a lot of time on memorizing new words or learning grammar rules. They don't use English for speaking. They study about the language, but they don't use it very much. Of course, you need to learn new words and new grammar, but you don't actually have to study them. During this course, I will show you a very simple and effective way on how to learn new words and grammar. I like what our teacher says. Our lesson continues. We speak about our hobbies and what we do in our free time. We speak in pairs or with our teacher. It is great and we speak for the entire lesson. I enjoy it so much. I have never spoken so much English during one lesson in my life. I have never learned this way before. I am happy and I look forward to the next lesson. Lesson 2. How to learn words. I go to school on Tuesday again. One of the students asks a question that is interesting for me. She asks, what is the best way to learn new words? Our teacher says, there are many things you can do to learn new words. I will tell you what is statistically the most effective way for learning new words. It is reading. When people read when they learn a new language, they learn twice as fast as people who don't read. It is good to read for at least 30 minutes every day. I want to show you what you should do if you want to get the maximum gains from reading. First, it is very important that the book or text which you read is interesting for you. It is important that you enjoy reading. The book can be a nice story or it can have some useful information for your job or your hobby. Don't read a text that isn't interesting for you. It is also good to read a text in which you know most of the words. When you don't know many words, you can get frustrated. You always want to enjoy everything you do while using English. It is good to choose a text which is interesting and also suitable for your level. When you read the text and you see a word that you don't understand, you get a dictionary and you look up the word. Then you continue reading. You don't have to write the word anywhere. You don't have to make a list of new words. You don't have to try to remember the word. You only focus on understanding the text. When it is clear to you what the word means, you continue reading. Anytime there is a new word for you, you do the same. Reading also has another great advantage. When you read, you learn new words and you also learn how every word is connected to other words in the sentence. Then you can see how to link the words correctly. This way of learning new words is very effective. Give it a try and you will see how fast you can learn new words. Then we continue with the lesson. We speak about the situation in England and about the best jobs for students. This is good for me because I want to have a job. I want to do something after my class. I ask other students if they know where I can find a job. They tell me that I should go to a job center. The job center offers a lot of jobs for students. This is good for me and I am happy that I know where I can find a job. When my day at school is finished, I go to the job center. I don't know what jobs I can do, so I ask the lady at the job center what the best job for a student is. The lady tells me that they have some good jobs for students. She tells me that I can be a cleaner or a waiter in a cafe. I tell the lady I have no experience doing these jobs. She tells me that my English is good enough to work at the cafe. The training is not difficult and I can have more chances to speak English than being a cleaner. She tells me that I can start my job on Thursday. It is all good for me. I'm happy that I have a job where I can practice English. Lesson 3. How to learn pronunciation. On Wednesday, I go to school again. There is one student in the class who is quieter than the other students. He is from South Korea. When our teacher asks if we have any questions for her, this student from Korea says that he has a question. He says that he has a big problem with pronunciation. He knows that his pronunciation is not very good, but he doesn't know how to improve it. He doesn't speak much because he doesn't want others to listen to his bad pronunciation. He says that he reads and watches films in English a lot. He understands very well, but he also wants to improve his speaking. He asks if there is something he could do to improve his pronunciation. When my teacher hears this, she says, "Okay, I will tell you something about pronunciation and how to practice it. I will also teach you a great technique that can help all of you to be better at pronunciation." First, we have to look at why students have problems with pronunciation. When we speak, we have to move our mouth. We have to use muscles in our mouth. We all do that. The problem is that when you speak English, sometimes you use your muscles the same way you would use them in your native language. Then your pronunciation is different from the pronunciation of native speakers. This happens to many students who learn English. Almost everybody has a bit different pronunciation than they should have. In fact, it is not a big problem because usually people understand what you want to say even though your pronunciation is not perfect. However, you can work on your pronunciation and make it better. There is a great technique that can help you a lot. The name of this technique is shadowing. The technique is very simple. When you do shadowing, you simply copy the sound that you hear immediately after hearing it. When children learn their first language, they learn it by copying. They copy after their parents again and again until their pronunciation is perfect. You can learn English pronunciation in the same way. This is what you can do. Take some video or audio recording that is not very fast and that you understand very well. You listen and you copy what you hear when you hear it. That is all. Shadowing is also good when you are preparing for a presentation you have to give in English and you want to have your pronunciation as close as possible to the pronunciation of native speakers. Before the presentation, you can go to some place where you are alone and you can do shadowing for about 10 minutes. You will see how much it will help you to have better pronunciation during the presentation. This is very interesting for me. I haven't heard about this technique before. When the lesson finishes, I go to the school reception. I ask the lady if there are any sport activities at school. I would like to play some sport in England. The lady at the reception says, "Yes, we have a table tennis team and a football team. The football team has training today at 5 o'clock. I am very happy because sport is very important in my life. I go to the training of the football team. I meet a lot of players from different countries. The players are from Brazil, Japan, Russia, Spain, Argentina and Italy. I like the training. I am very happy that my time in England starts well. I have a great teacher. I also have some new friends from my football team. Also, tomorrow I am starting my job." Lesson 4. How to practice speaking. On Thursday, I go to school again. We have a new student in our class. Her name is Monica and she is from Italy. At the beginning of the lesson, my teacher asks her how her life is. My teacher knows Monica from 1 year ago when she attended her class. That one was a class for beginners and it was only for 2 weeks during summer holiday. When Monica speaks, her English is beautiful. Her pronunciation is very good and she is very fluent. My teacher is very happy and she asks Monica, "Where did you learn English so well? You speak very fluently. What school did you go to?" Monica replies, "I didn't go to school. I learned English at home. I used the advice and techniques that you taught us last summer. I did a lot of reading, shadowing and thinking aloud. I tried to think more in English than in Italian. This is how I improved my English. The 2 weeks I spent last summer at your class helped me a lot. You showed me the way. I knew exactly how to work on my English every day. That's why I wanted to go to your class again because 1 year ago, I was a beginner and now I can speak English. I want to learn from you again." My teacher is very happy when she hears these words. She thanks Monica for sharing her experience. It is all very interesting for me. I already know about the importance of reading. I also know the shadowing technique. But Monica also mentions thinking aloud. I don't know what it is. So I ask our teacher, "What is thinking aloud?" Our teacher says, "It is a very simple and powerful technique, but you have to have a strong motivation to learn English if you want to benefit from this technique. It is also good to know that for some people this technique is a little bit crazy. However, when you start to think aloud, your English can improve very fast." I say, I have a strong motivation. I don't care if the technique is crazy. If it helps, I want to learn it. Can you teach us this technique? Okay, it is actually very simple. You usually think in your native language all day every day. It is normal. Now, you can start to think in English instead of your native language. And when you start thinking in English, then you can think aloud. It means that you actually say aloud what you think. It is all. I say, it looks very simple. You said that it is a powerful technique. Why is it powerful? Our teacher says, maybe you can ask Monica. She has used this technique for a year. Maybe she can tell us what she has found out about this technique. Then our teacher asks Monica if she is willing to speak about her experience with thinking aloud. It is no problem for Monica. She says, when I started with this technique, it wasn't easy. I started with very simple sentences. For example, I can speak English. It is good that I can speak English. I want to be better. I need to practice every day. I don't know many words. But I can use these words well. I can express my ideas with these words. I can do this. This is great. The sentences were really simple. I realized that sentences that I thought in Italian were long and complicated. I wasn't able to say in English exactly what I was saying in Italian. I had to find a simpler form. To think in simple English was the hardest part. But after some time I got used to it. Then it was normal for me to think in English. Then something interesting happened. I met a man from Australia. He was on holiday in Italy. I was still a beginner, but we started to speak English. I could see that I was able to speak with him without big problems. My sentences were still simple and short, but because I said them many times before when I was thinking aloud, I was able to speak. I didn't have to translate in my head from Italian to English as I did before using this technique. After the meeting with the man from Australia, I started to use thinking aloud even more. This technique helped me a lot. It improved my ability to express my ideas very much. I still use it every day. It is really a powerful technique. Our teacher thanks Monica for sharing her experience with thinking aloud. I decide to use this technique because I also want to be better at speaking. Lesson 5. How to learn grammar. After school, I go to the cafe where my job training starts. I don't know what to expect. I have never worked at a cafe. I am not sure if I can do this job. When I come to the cafe, I am very surprised. It is a modern cafe which sells coffee, tea and also chocolate cakes and sandwiches. And my boss is only 25 years old, but she has been working at the cafe for more than 2 years. She has a lot of experience and she knows everything perfectly. She shows me how to prepare coffee, how to wash the dishes and how to deal with customers. It is all new for me. I remember only about 20% of what she is telling me. But then she lets me do the work and she corrects me when I make a mistake. She is very friendly and I learn fast. After the first day at work, I am very tired. I had to learn many new things, but I am happy that I have a job. The next day is Friday and I go to school again. One student asks an interesting question. Sometimes when I speak I am not sure if I speak correctly. I am not sure if I use correct grammar. Can you help me what to do if I want to learn grammar? Our teacher says, "Thank you for your question." There are 2 groups of students. Some students study English because they want to be able to speak. Some students study English because they want to pass an exam. For each group there is a different approach. First, I will speak about those who need English for speaking. If this is your case, you don't have to study grammar a lot. When you learned your native language, you also learned it without studying grammar. You can learn English grammar naturally by using the language. The best way to learn grammar naturally is by reading a lot. Books are written in good grammar. When you read, you will learn grammar in the context of the whole sentence. I also recommend shadowing. When you do shadowing, you practice the correct grammar. You do it naturally. You don't have to try to remember anything. You only copy sentences with correct grammar. Lesson 6. How to test your English. It is Monday again, and I go to my school. Our teacher asks us what we did at the weekend. I say that I was at work on Saturday. I say that I can already do my work quite well. I say that I am happy when I can speak to our customers. When I speak, one of the girls in the class asks me, "What happened to your voice? You sound very different from what we heard last week. Your pronunciation is very good." I smile and I say, "Thank you, I tried to do shadowing on Saturday evening after my work and the whole Sunday. I tried to speak like a native speaker. I know that it is still not perfect, but I also hear a big change in my pronunciation. Our teacher asks if anybody else tried to practice shadowing. 3 students raise their hands. One of them is the student from South Korea. He also likes this technique. One student says that she tried the technique, but her mouth hurt a lot after 5 minutes of shadowing and she had to stop. She also says that she wasn't always able to repeat everything. Sometimes it was hard for her to keep up with the speed of the recording. Our teacher says, "Thank you for trying out this technique. If you do shadowing for the first time and your mouth hurts after 5 minutes, it means that you are doing it correctly. Your muscles need to be trained to this new way of speaking. It is like going to the gym for the first time. Your muscles can hurt if they are not trained. If your mouth's muscles hurt, you can take a break after 5 minutes and continue a bit later. With every 5 minutes of practice, your pronunciation should be a little bit better." Shadowing has also other advantages. You practice the correct pronunciation in English, and you also practice other things such as intonation, rhythm and connecting words in whole sentences. I know that at the beginning, the recording can sometimes be too fast. If this happens, you can repeat only the first or the last word in the sentence. With practice you will be able to repeat more. I say that it is true. On Saturday when I started with shadowing, it was quite difficult for me. But on Sunday evening, it was quite easy to repeat what I heard. Lesson 7. How to handle mistakes. On Tuesday, I go to school again. One student asks our teacher an interesting question. She says, "I would like to practice speaking with people around me, but I am afraid of making mistakes. I don't want to look stupid. Can you help me?" Our teacher says, "Making mistakes is a very interesting topic. There are a lot of opinions on this topic. I want to show you what I believe is the best approach. I have a lot of experience with this because I also learned new languages. I still continue doing it. For example, now I am learning Spanish. When I speak Spanish, I don't care if I make mistakes or not. The reason why I don't care about mistakes is simple. When I learned my native language, I didn't care about making mistakes either. So why should I care now? My main goal when I use any language is to express my ideas. That is all. I know that when I read a lot, speak and do shadowing, my Spanish will be better and better. I know that this can look very simple, but it is my opinion. This is my experience after many years of both teaching and learning languages. It works very well for me and many of my students. When I speak, I only concentrate on speaking. At the moment I know 1,500 words in Spanish. It is the level of a 2-year-old child. 2-year-old children make a lot of mistakes when they speak, but they don't care about their mistakes. They continue using their native language, and when they are 3 years old, they make very few mistakes, and when they are 4 years old, they already speak very well with hardly making any mistakes. You can do the same. Now most of you know about 2,000 words, So it is okay to make mistakes time to time. When you continue using English, there will be fewer and fewer mistakes in your speaking. It is not possible to improve without making mistakes. When you practice English, it is okay not to be perfect. Perfection comes with practice. People who started to learn English started from the beginning, from the same level, which is level 0. Learning languages is like learning to play a musical instrument. It needs to be trained. When you start your training, it is not perfect at the beginning and you make mistakes. It is normal. Take it as a necessary part of your learning process. If you didn't go through this period of making mistakes, you could not get to higher levels. When you continue to do what you want to learn, the mistakes will gradually be eliminated. If you want to make fewer and fewer mistakes, do a lot of reading and shadowing. When you read, you can read aloud. It can also help you make fewer mistakes. In real conversations, care only about exchanging ideas. Don't care about making mistakes. When you speak, you practice changing your thoughts into words. You don't learn grammar or words. You have other activities for that. Don't worry. Everybody who learns a foreign language makes mistakes from time to time, even famous people, bosses of big companies or politicians. When you listen to these people on TV, you see that they don't care about mistakes. They care about what is important, and that is expressing their ideas. You can do the same. Does it make sense? The girl says, yes, thank you. Lesson 8. How to remember words. On Wednesday, I go to school again. At the beginning of the lesson, one student says, I started to read more. I feel that it is good for me. I can see how my grammar is better, but I have a problem. When I read, I look at a new word in a dictionary. Then I continue reading. Sometimes when I see the same word again only 10 minutes later, I don't remember the word and I have to look at it again. Can you help me to remember the words better? Our teacher says that it is an interesting question and she gives this explanation. It is absolutely normal that you don't remember the new word immediately. Usually, you will have to look up the word 5 times before you remember it. There will be also words which you will have to look up 10 or 15 times. These words are usually verbs. When we learn a new word, the word goes through phases. Only when you achieve the last phase, you remember the word very well. There are 5 of these phases. Let's have a look at them. The first phase is the moment when you see the word for the first time and you don't know the word. You look it up in the dictionary. The second phase is the moment when you see the word which you already looked up in the dictionary or heard or saw it in the past. You know that you saw this word before, but you still don't remember its meaning. You look at the word again. The third phase is the moment when you see the word again and you feel what it could mean, but you are not sure. For example, you know that the word is some kind of object or some animal or verb. The fourth phase is the moment when you already know what the word means when you see it, but you are not able to recall the word when you want to say it. When this phase happens, the word is in your passive vocabulary. The fifth phase is the moment when you are able to use the word when you speak. Now you can see there are 5 phases altogether. You have to see or hear every word several times and let it go through all the phases until you get to phase number 5. You can be happy not only when you learn a new word perfectly but also when you get from one phase to the other. When it happens, you are closer to the final goal, and it is to use the word without problems in everyday communication. All of this is interesting to me. I didn't know about these phases, but it is all logical. It also happened to me that I looked up a new word in the dictionary, but 2 minutes later I didn't know what the word was and I had to look it up again. I felt stupid that I didn't remember the word. Now, I know that it is absolutely okay not to remember the word forever when I see it for the first time. I need to see the word many times before I can use the word well. Lesson 9. How to improve listening. The next day, I go to school again. One of the students has an important question. He wants to know how to improve his listening skills. He wants to know what the best system is. Our teacher says, "Thank you for your question. Good listening skills are very important for communication. If you don't understand what people say, it will be difficult for you to speak with them." There are a lot of materials on the internet for students of English. Some students can have a problem to choose the right listening materials for them. Let's have a look at what you should listen to. There are 2 types of materials which you can listen to. You can listen to some audio or you can watch a film. These are quite different materials and different rules apply to them. When you listen to some audio, you should know 95% of the words or more. If the audio has a lot of new words, read the text first if possible and make sure you know all the words. When you practice listening, you practice getting information from a spoken language. You don't try to learn new words. Of course, sometimes you can learn new words, but it is not the main goal. When you listen, concentrate on getting information from spoken English. It is important to use materials at your level of English. For example, you can use books in simplified English which contain an audio recording. I really recommend these books to you. They are fantastic because you can choose a book at your level of English. Lesson 10. What you need before you start. On Friday, we have an interesting conversation in our class. Our teacher has a question for us. She asks, "What was your first reason to learn English?" Do you remember the moment when you started to learn English? When did you start to be really interested in the language? I say that I remember the moment when I started to be interested in English. My teacher says, "Can you tell us what happened?" I say yes. First, I have to say that English wasn't always my favorite subject. I started to learn English at high school. At the beginning, it was very difficult for me. I didn't understand the structure of the language. It was illogical to me. I tried to remember words. I tried to learn grammar, but it was very hard. When I finished high school, I was still only a beginner. I couldn't speak English and I believed that I would never learn this language properly. I simply believed that English wasn't for me. Then something happened. I always liked music, and when I was 20, I started to listen to the Beatles. I wanted to understand what they were singing, so I started to translate their songs. Slowly I understood more and more. Then I met two ladies from England on a train. We had a simple conversation, but it helped me very much. I started to believe that I could learn English. From that moment, I was working on my English almost every day and I was getting better and better. Then I decided to go to England and improve English here. My teacher thanks me for sharing my story. She also tells me, "Here is something very interesting about your story. You are still you. The first, you didn't have motivation to learn English. The second, you had a motivation. You wanted to understand songs. You can see that motivation is very important. When you have it, you can succeed. When you don't have it, it is very hard to be successful." Then our teacher asks everybody in the class about their motivation to learn English. The stories are very interesting. One girl's motivation is to be able to read historical books in original English. One student wants to be a professional tennis coach in England. He wants to speak perfect English before he starts his career as a coach. One woman wants to work for a big international company and she needs English for her job. I can see that everybody has some kind of motivation to use English in real life or to get information from books. At the end of the lesson, our teacher asks us if we like English. I say, I didn't like English at my high school, but now I like it a lot. I can see how useful it is to know this language. Our teacher says, this is another important factor when you learn a new language. It is good when you like something which is connected to English. It can be people, music, culture, or history. If you like English, it is easier for you to learn it. Summary. The next day, one girl asks our teacher an interesting question. She says, "Thank you for the information you are giving us on how to learn English. Could you give us a summary with some rules on what we can do every day to learn English well?" Our teacher says, "Okay, I will try to give you a simple summary. If you want to speak English well, you need to do 3 things. You have to read, listen and speak. You already know that. What is important is that you do all these 3 activities about the same amount of time. You should read for at least 30 minutes every day. It is the minimum. Don't read to study English. Read to get some new information. Read to enjoy an interesting story. Then, you should listen to English for at least 30 minutes every day. Again, it should be something which you are interested in. You should enjoy getting the information. Then there is speaking. You already know how important it is to speak when you study English. Again, it is important to speak for at least 30 minutes every day. Of course, the best way is to speak to real people. It can be your teacher, your classmates, colleagues or friends. However, if you have nobody to speak to, with shadowing and thinking aloud, you can also get a lot of speaking practice every day. All you have to do is read, listen and speak. This is all. Now, you know how to do it. "Thank you," says the girl. "This is what I needed to hear. You are the best." Now, it is 1 year after my last day at school. I used English every day. I used the techniques from my teacher. I also have a new job. I start to teach English. I teach beginners. I have one great advantage in my new job. I had a great teacher in London. Now, I'm trying to give all I learned from my teacher to my students. I want them to be successful as well.